Hello and welcome to this look at the weather prospects for the next 14 days. Let me start off by saying what an incredible August this has been. We had extreme heat during the second week with temperatures in southern England rising above 35 Celsius on a number of consecutive days. It then turned a lot more unsettled as well as cooler, and for the first time since the storm naming system was introduced, we've had two named storms in August. Those being Ellen and Francis, which both brought significant disruption to parts of the UK. Well, despite the recent cooler conditions, the central England temperature provisionally to the 26th of the month is 18.5 Celsius. That's a huge 2.7 Celsius above the 30-year average. So how are things looking as we head into September? Let me start off by showing you the pressure sequence for the next few days, particularly important with it being the bank holiday weekend coming up. This starts tomorrow, and if you look towards the centre of the plot, you can see the UK, and there's an area of low pressure here. Unfortunately, of course, that means that much of the country can expect showers or long spells of rain. Now, if I run the sequence forward, let's see what happens. Stepping forward 3 hours at a time. Now, if I pause it here, Saturday afternoon, we can see that by then high pressure is beginning to building from the west. There's still a cool northerly or northeasterly flow cover the UK, and I think there'll still be some showers around, particularly in the east of Britain. Nonetheless, things are beginning to improve. Now, if I take it forward further, here we are for Sunday and Monday, bank holiday Monday, of course. By then, high pressure is close to being centred over the country, so I think we can all look forward to a lot of dry weather. Still not warm, nonetheless dry. I guess that's very important with people on staycation this year. So the exception could, of course, looking at this, be the northwest, where perhaps weather fronts from the Atlantic may be beginning to arrive. Now, I mentioned the temperatures. I'll just say a little more about them, because it is going to be chilly. If I show you this chart from the GFS model for Sunday morning at 6 a.m, what we can see, if I highlight this, Scotland, we can see temperatures there shown to be only 2 or 3 degrees above freezing. Now, that will be cold enough for a localised ground frost. If we look at Wales, temperatures there are shown to be down to 4 Celsius, so I wouldn't be surprised if even there could be a touch of ground frost in places. Not unprecedented for August, but pretty unusual, I think. So despite the dry conditions this weekend, it looks like it's going to be particularly chilly at night, and the days will be quite cool to go with it. So let's have a look at the longer term. We've got the GEFS plot here for London for the next 16 days. We can see the cool conditions shown on the upper half of the plot. These temperatures here are at about 1,500 metres above sea level, gives an indication of the air mass over the UK. And you can see in much of this period here, till about the 3rd of September, they are above the 30-year average, which is shown by this black line going through the plot. Then it turns warmer, probably, or temperatures recover, maybe a more appropriate way of describing what happens. There are a number of warm runs in here, but there is uncertainty about just what will happen to temperatures. As I say, I would expect them to recover. Whether or not it turns warm or very warm, much less certain. It's possible, but we'll probably see closer to average temperatures being the most likely outcome. Now, along the bottom of the plot, we've got rainfall, and in the short term, just annotate here, we can see it's looking quite wet. That's the area of low pressure bringing rain that I just discussed. However, as we go through next week and into September, it actually looks quite dry. There are a few rain spikes appearing there, but for much of a period in southern England, it's looking pretty dry, so not too bad at all. If we flip to the comparable chart for Glasgow, and focus in particular on rainfall, because temperatures, the pattern there is quite similar, cool, then a recovery. But if we look at rainfall across the bottom, we can see that it's going to be fairly dry after in the next few days, but in the longer term, there are more rainfall spikes here than there were on the London plot. So taking those two together, what it tends to indicate is the likelihood of high pressure being centred somewhere to the south of Britain, or maybe over southern Britain, with Atlantic weather fronts having more influence in the northwest. It's a fairly typical pattern. This is a new chart that we've got on TWO. It shows the forecast temperatures and a number of other parameters from GEFS model. Now, the interesting thing about this is that each red spot represents the forecast from one of the given GEFS runs for the given time. It's a scatter chart, so it gives a good indication of which outcomes have been shown most frequently by the GFS. So again, it's a tool to help decide what the probabilities of different solutions are. The green line through the middle here is the trend line, and as I say, this is actually showing the forecast maximum temperatures for the next 16 days for London. Now, we can quite clearly see during the early phase of the plot, temperatures drop, and that's the cool period which I was discussing. And then as we move forward into September, there's a general trend upwards. Most of the runs look close to average or rather warm. However, there are a number here on this top part showing temperatures in the high 20s Celsius. So there are a number, in other words, which show it being very warm. They are in a minority though, so I'd probably focus on temperatures being close to average or a little above rather than very warm, but wouldn't discount that just at this stage. Now, another way of looking at what's happening is the temperature anomaly chart for a given time period. So deviation from average, warmer or colder than we would expect at this time of the year. Days 0 to 5, UK here is covered in blue shading, indicating much cooler conditions than we'd normally expect in late August. The anomaly there shown to be 4 Celsius below average over much of the country, and that really ties in with what I was saying about the prospects for the bank holiday weekend. If we step forward to days 5 to 10, we can see it's a different picture by then. Temperatures have recovered. They're still slightly below average in the north and the west, but in the south and the east, they're close to or slightly above the average. If we go forward again by another 5 days, so now we're looking at days 10 to 15. It's a similar pattern really, slightly above average in the south, a little bit below average in the north. So all that probably ties into what the ECM pressure plot here is showing. This is the ECM Ensemble, so it's taken the average of all the runs in the ECM model. With ensembles, what they do is initiate them with slightly different starting data and run them over and over again, and the impact of change from the initiation data on the forecast gives you an idea of how confident you can be in a given solution. Now, this is for the Sunday the 6th of September, and the pattern it's suggesting is high pressure to the south of the UK, areas of low pressure to the north. So very, very much typical for what we would expect in the UK, across the North Atlantic. So not particularly warm, not particularly cold by then, not particularly cool, I guess, for this time of year. It's a little bit early to be talking about cold weather, although it's coming. The dark nights are on the way now. But generally pretty close to average by Sunday the 6th of September, and that will probably continue as we head beyond and towards the middle of the month. At least that's the current thinking, but as ever, once we're looking at this range, do remember that forecast confidence is pretty low, and we're really just looking at trends and not the specifics. So to summarise, it's going to be cool in the short term, some rain tomorrow across much of the country, drier as we head through the bank holiday weekend as high pressure builds in from the west. Could be a ground frost in parts of the north and even as far south as parts of Wales on some of the bank holiday weekend nights. As we go through next week, it looks like it's probably going to turn more unsettled in the north, but high pressure will continue to influence weather in southern and probably central parts of the UK. And that really remains a theme as we head towards the middle of September. So, thank you for watching this. Thanks now. Bye.